Hi, and welcome to Loan Officer Team Training. I'm Irene Duford, your host, and I'm super excited to have with us today one of the most amazing loan officers that I just love to death. He is not just somebody that I've been able to coach. I've had the honor of coaching him, but I have seen his amazing results as we've coached together, and I'm just so grateful that he's here. It's Youssef Abdelhalim, and I am so grateful, Youssef, for you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a really cool thing that we get to do this together, and you have so much good stuff to share with everybody. So I just wanted to have you on and have you share all of your success and your stories and things that have helped you to be successful so we can help other people.
I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So tell us where you're from, where you do business, and, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Youssef from AnyMac Home Mortgage. So I've been with AnyMac for about 6 years now. I'm based out of northern New Jersey in a small town called Sparta Township. I live here. My office is here as well. Live about 5 minutes from the office. I've been in the business for about 10 years now. I've seen all different types of markets, this one being the most confusing, right? And probably the most challenging one. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Yeah, I got in shortly after the crash, right? Or quote unquote, the crash. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. I was originally hired as a dialer, and you look now and being a branch manager slash producing branch manager, it's different looking at that market versus this.
Yes, very different market. But you know what? It's fun. It was a challenge, right? Each step of the way as you became a loan officer. Did you get trained when you were a loan officer? How did that whole thing start?
Yeah, so the way that it started was I essentially sat in a room with 3 loan originators that were like really powerful, right? Mm-hmm. Each of them had 20 plus years in the business. Even back then, they had seen all different types of markets. Subprime, they saw the crash, they made it through the crash, they were building their business back up. They kind of reinvented themselves. The average of them reinventing themselves is about 4 times over, they said, right? Because the business was changing so much. So I found that really helpful. And I sat in a room with these guys, not taking a salary, not taking a paycheck. I just wanted to learn. And everybody had their own way of selling, right? I basically tried to take the sum of all of it, right? And see what my tactic was going to be, what my strategy was going to be. And it was neat watching them build relationships with realtors, learning that really that the client is your realtor a little bit more than the actual borrower is. It was interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And such a great experience, right? Listening to other people who were successful, being able to talk to people and each doing it their own different way. And so you picked up a little from them and a little and you put your own mix in it, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm. I saw some bad habits. I saw some good habits, tried to take most of the good habits and try to implement as quickly as I could.
Yeah. What is it about the loan business that you love the most, Youssef?
What I loved about the loan business is the ability to help people and then help them again and have repeat clients, right? So I came from the restaurant industry, and even though customer satisfaction was very important, it was such a small transaction, if you will, right? They would come in, there'd be, a food and drink preference, right? They'd make their order, we'd bring it out to them, they would eat and they would leave, right? I didn't get to work with clients for 2, 3, 4 months, right? I didn't get to educate people during that. I didn't feel passionate. Being in the mortgage business, there's a lot of education, right? When it comes down to something as simple as a credit check and how credit works, right? Mm-hmm. Qualifying someone, identifying the best loan program for them, how to meet their goals, right? Looking at their monthly payment preferences, how to best utilize the money that they've saved up and how to utilize that nest egg the right way versus just focusing on maybe down payment only, right? And how to use it precisely. So the loan business for me is a way to help people achieve what ended up being my greatest accomplishment, which was home ownership. So for me, like, I remember the feeling of buying a house when I was 24, and I was like, wow, right? Like, this is a sensational feeling. Like, this is monumental. Like, having the keys to that door was like everything. And just that gratitude that you have, right? There's nothing like home ownership. So for me to help people achieve that feeling and accomplish that goal there's nothing like it.
That's the truth. 24. I was not even 24 when I bought my first home, but I wasn't in the business either. But 24 is pretty young. It's great. That's a great accomplishment at 24. And you've accomplished a lot more than that since then, right?
I have, thankfully. So that property led to some other properties, right? Real estate became my life, right? Loan originating became my life. So I started buying investment properties, and I did one flip, and it's a passion of mine. I feel like it's important for it to be a passion and not just look at it as a job, right? Because when you look at something like a job or something that you have to do, you kind of count the hours in the day, and you can't wait for that clock to hit, say, 5. Not that that's bad for some people, right? That might be great for some people. But
Right.
for me personally, like, I want more out of it. I want to be fully invested in it. And me becoming a homeowner and being a landlord and having experience has made me a better salesperson, has made me a better mentor.
Yes, because you have a team, and we'll talk about your team in a minute. What I'd like to bring focus to right now is that you joined us in the Freedom Club in Mortgage Marketing Animals in August of 2019 in Nashville. I remember
Yeah.
you attended an event there, right? And then you said, I'm in, I'm all in. And we got to start coaching together. I became your coach, and it's been such a fun journey to watch where you've gone. So tell us what you were making, what were your numbers in 2019 compared to the following year in 2020?
Sure. So in 2019, I had come off a big year per se, right? But it was a year that I felt like I hit my absolute max wall, right? And I was revving that engine, and I could not get any further, right? I was maxing out the engine, and even though it was a great year, I was pretty burnt out, right? And I needed some help. So my earnings for 2019 were around $400,000, and that 400,000, I said to myself, sadly, prior to joining the Freedom Club, like, man, this is great and all, but how I feel is not great. And I feel really overwhelmed. I had like a lot of fogginess going on. I was working crazy hours, right? And it was tough, right? So not complaining about 400,000, but the way that it was done was challenging, right? And then in just 2 years later, I ended up making $1 million, right?
That's
Um,
amazing.
so $1.1 million was my goal, or was my income rather in 2021, which was actually $100,000 more than I thought I was going to make. And I thought that the goal was high, shooting for a 7-figure income, but it turns out, it was realistic, and that's the hard part for me to digest.
Yes. Because it's easy to think, oh, that's a lot of money. I'll never get there. Right. Or you stop ourselves because we have limiting beliefs about what we can do. And we just kept saying, you can do this. And you were around other people that were doing
Yeah,
it.
I
And that makes a
was.
difference, doesn't it? Who you are with. So tell
Yep.
us how you felt when you first got around other people that were earning a good amount of money, and what did it do to your mindset and your belief system?
So the first time I was around people that were earning that kind of money was honestly at that Nashville event. I was in that room, and the reason I went to this event is because I had hit this level of production, right, and monthly income, and I said, man, I don't want to go back from here, but man, am I burnt out, and I need to find a better way to do it. So I
Mhm.
sat in a room with a bunch of 7-figure earners, high earners, who had a great quality of life. I mean, people around me weren't picking up their phones, right? They were focused, they were dialed in, they were having conversations, right? They weren't running back to their hotel room to jump on a laptop, right? They weren't stressed out looking. They had balance, and they were closing huge production and making great income. And I was like, this is where I need to be. This feels like home. So I remember signing up for the Freedom Club at the end of the event. As silly as it sounds, I was like shaky. I remember signing my name and signing up, and I was like shaky, like, man, am I really ready for this? But it's the
Uh-huh.
best thing that ever happened to me. As I got more involved in the Freedom Club, you understand how simple it is, right? And how much they break it down for you, right? So it's not, hey, close 20 loans a month at an average loan amount of 300,000, and you're going to make X based on your BIPs, right?
Mhm.
It's what systems and processes can we put into your process, right? You've got to break it down to small goals, right? Down to the amount of credit pulls you're having per week or per day, right?
Mhm.
The amount of conversations you're having per day results in the credit pulls that you need for that week, that month, that year. Your conversion on those credit pulls then turns into contracts, right? And closings and fundings. So it's amazing because, rather than being a loan officer that would come to work and fly by the seat of my pants, just like, trying to figure out what I'm doing for the day, I had my day mapped out, and I knew exactly what I needed to do to get to that big goal.
Yes. And then the accountability helps, doesn't it? Because then you've got a coach that you can talk to every 2 weeks and more if you need to, but
Yeah.
every 2 weeks where you're being held accountable to do what you said you were going to do. And if you didn't do it, then we just ask what got in the way.
Yep. Absolutely. So, starting in, I think it was starting in September, right? You and I started our calls, and it was every 2 weeks. You'd say, "So how you doing?" And I'll be honest, some weeks were good, some weeks were definitely a struggle, and then there's other weeks where it was a therapy session, you know. And a lot of that was just me experiencing growth and not knowing how to handle it. Shout out to you for being an amazing coach. There are times where you gave me homework, and I was so overwhelmed because I want to do this and this and this all at the same time. And the reality is you can't implement everything you're learning, right? You've got to take it in little bits and pieces, become good at it, and then implement more. And if you remember in the beginning, I was very, very overwhelmed, and I locked up.
It happens a lot. It
Yeah.
does. Because everybody wants to do everything right now, right?
Yep.
And so that's when we break it down and say, you know what? We can take this in little small steps, because small steps get us further than trying to do the huge ones, and then we don't make it.
Right.
So you were really good at being a very good student. Like, okay, let's decide what we're doing, and then I'm going to go do it. And you did. You would go do it. And that's why you got your goal. That's why you reached your goal the way you did. It's doing the small, simple things every day is what makes the difference. And you did them. Now, we all have times where we get nervous or we get overwhelmed or whatever, but you had the right mindset to reach your goals. You were determined. And that's what I loved about coaching you, is how determined you are. But you're such a great person too. Like, you're really good with your referral partners. You're excellent with your team. Everybody around you loves being around you because you're that great of a person. But you're determined to reach your goals, and that's why you reached them.
Well, I appreciate that. And honestly, I have to say, you helped me with that culture piece a lot. Do you remember in 2020 when we had to rebuild the machine 3 times?
Yes, I do.
Oh man, we got that influx of refinances, and I went from having like 30 loans in the pipeline to over 100, and I did not know how to handle it. I mean, my processor was overwhelmed, loan opener was overwhelmed, and my loan partners were overwhelmed, and you and I were able to have very focused conversations on 3 separate occasions. On you listened, you evaluated, right? And you said, all right, let's move this person here, and let's have this person do this. And hey, I think this is your problem area. And sure enough, by I'd say October of 2020, we perfected that process, which allowed me to catapult myself in 2021.
Well, that's great. I appreciate you giving me kudos on that, but you did it. You did the work. It was all you. And I loved watching you put the pieces together, take the puzzle, put the pieces. And sometimes it fell over, right? Sometimes the puzzle fell off the table and you had to put the puzzle back together again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It takes consistency, and it takes determination, and it takes a commitment to do that. But you did it. And it's amazing. And I had the honor of training some of your staff, just some amazing people that you have on your staff. And so tell me how you feel about having a team and how that helped you to reach your goals and to continue to reach your goals.
Before joining the Freedom Club, I was using my team members as, I don't want to come off weird, but like paper pushers, for a lack of better terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just having them like upload documents and things like that. And while it's good to take things that you don't like to do off your plate, or that were not dollar producing activities off of your plate, I wasn't using them to their fullest capacity. And the reason I wasn't using them to their fullest capacity is because I never challenged them to see what their capacity was. I didn't know what their capabilities were, right? And you guys helped me open up my eyes to that. So previously, I thought the number one activity that made me money was closing loans. Just a very silly mentality, right? And then I also thought that I had to speak to every borrower, and I used to have to like jump for the phone and talk to everybody. So I'd take an application, sure, I'd have my team enter it, but then I was doing the callback and then the scenarios and the pre-approval letters and all this kind of stuff. And as I started doing the acts of freedom, I started delegating more items. And that was a big, big eye opener for me, is when I made that list of what my loan partners were going to do moving forward and what I was going to be responsible for, freeing up myself, super uncomfortable, but man, I'll tell you, it made all the difference. So the team now, I've got 2 licensed loan partners. they're able to fully take an application, qualify someone, send pre-approval letters out on my behalf, things like that. If I'm out of the office and I'm not able to speak to a client, it's not an issue, right? I was actually just away last week in the Dominican Republic. Otherwise, we would have been doing this sooner. And while I was away, I think I picked up the phone maybe a total of like 4 times, and it was from my mom.
Oh, that's so great. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So,
so great.
so yeah, I had an answering service on. They would transfer live leads back to my team. Couldn't imagine being in that position years ago.
And I am so grateful to hear you say that, because the fact that you didn't have to do work on your vacation, just like when a loan partner or your team members go on vacation, they don't need to do work, right? Because someone
Right.
has covered them. When you're gone, you shouldn't have to work either. And that was the whole thing, is you wanted the ability to have freedom, time freedom, to be able to go with your wife and go on vacation and do things, but nothing falls through the cracks while you're gone,
Right.
because you have an amazing team, and you do have an amazing team. They're really, really great. And the fact that they've got your back, that they want you to go on vacation, and, everybody has their role and everybody's happy in their role.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm away, look, I'm silly sometimes, and I'll reply to an email and they'll say, hey, stop that. Or like I'll chime in on a Teams chat and they'll say, hey, get off the chat. Please go away and have a drink.
I love that.
But no, a lot of it, honestly, and I not always giving you all these plugs and everything, but like you helped train them, right? They weren't always this way, right? So they got this way by going through your trainings and learning how to overcome objections on the phone, right? How to smile through the phone, how to speak with the clients better, right? Otherwise, I don't know that I would trust them to speak with my clients. And getting a referral is a really hard place to get to, right? We've got to reach out to the realtor, develop a relationship with them. And sometimes it's not a first call, first go type of thing, right? Most times it takes many rounds, many experiences with that realtor to have them gain a certain level of trust in you, right? And then the referral comes. And when that referral comes, you've got to do a really, really good job with that client to impress them and handhold them in a certain type of way where they get their money, they get it quickly, but yet they have the education that they need. So it's a really tough formula, right?
It is.
And if your team's not ready for it and you're just delegating it to your team and it's mishandled, forget it. You've lost that relationship.
And then you lose the trust for your team member as well. Because
100%.
We've trained over 1,000 loan partners in the last 4 years, and team members, whether they're loan partners, processors, marketing managers, anybody. And when we've trained them, we always ask the question during the training class, what's the number one thing the loan officer does that holds you back from getting your job done? And the number one thing is always the same. It's always the same, no matter how many groups we've had. And that is, they don't let go. They don't let go. And so we discussed that about ways that they can help the loan officer let go. And there are a lot of little tricks to doing that. But one of them is they have to trust you. They have to trust that you're going to get the job done, because if you let the ball drop, it's going to be a problem. And then they won't trust you after that. And so those are the kinds of things we teach them in the training. And it's been so fun to be able to get to know loan officers' teams and know, you can always tell the really good ones. And some of them are just so engaged in the training and they're learning and they're soaking it up. Because what I've noticed about this training is that there isn't training out there like it. Like, not that I'm aware of, at least. There is training for loans, and there's training, but there's these trainings, and I think you've sent them to both. The WOW training is for communication, it's processes, systems, making sure that you're supporting your loan officer. Here's ways to do it, how to use your loan officer's name so the clients feel more comfortable, things like that. And mindset. Everything we do has self-talk in it about mindset and growth. But you know what I noticed, Youssef, is that they don't really have another avenue for that type of stuff. So they eat it up, because loan officers have a lot of seminars they go to and events that they go to that pump them up and stuff. But most of the time, the team doesn't have stuff like that.
Well, don't forget too, we're different people, right? Like, we're the same, we're people, right?
Right.
But I don't mean that in a certain way, but we have different personalities, right?
Yes.
So salespeople are a lot different than loan partners are. And that's scientifically proven with the DISC assessment, right?
Yes.
Like, you've got salespeople and you've got people that are great in a processing capacity. You've got people that are great in a loan partner capacity, right? And that's what the DISC assessment teaches us, right? Even if I tried to teach them right? I would not have the same success that you guys have with teaching them because one, I might not find the time, I might get frustrated, right? I might have a different viewpoint, right? Whereas you guys, you've got a whole system in place and they're on, and it's not just like a 20-minute webinar, right? It is, you guys have sessions, right? And it's
Yes.
mapped out and it's camera on and it's accountability in those sessions. My loan partners came away from that really, really happy and they felt like they learned so much more than sadly what I taught them.
Because you don't have time to teach them all that stuff. You should be out getting business, right? So that's the reason why people send them to the training is they don't have time to do it. It's not that they can't do it, but it's nice. The feedback that I've also gotten back is that they come back to the loan officer and some of the stuff the loan officer already said to them, but when they hear it from somebody else, it makes a difference. It's kind of that way with everything we learn, right? If you hear it from one person, it means something, but then if you hear it from other people, it means more.
I think one of the most impactful things, there's two things that in my mind that are milestones for me. When Christina finished her training, she came to me and she said, hey, do you have 5 minutes? And I said, yeah, sure. And I thought there was a big problem, right? There was a problem, but it was like a wow moment for me, right? See what I did there? A wow moment.
Wow.
Right? She said, I'm not helping you enough. And I think this is the reason why. And she said, I think you need to be more hands off with some of these activities that you're doing and really take these items off your plate. I know you feel like you have to do them, but by you not doing them, right? And for example, like some of the loan strategy calls or the callbacks to the borrowers that I was still handling, she's like, you need to be out of that. You need to be out focusing on sales. You know what I mean? I'll handle this piece. The other really important milestone for me was I had gone away with my wife to celebrate New Year's in Florida, like we do every year. It's kind of a tradition of ours. I went away, put my laptop, I had it closed in my office at my Florida house. We went through our trip and everything, and I came back, and I realized, wow, I didn't open up my laptop, and I had been there for 4 days. So for 4 days, I operated by just doing a quick little review on my phone, right? Just kind of seeing what the team notes were. That was it. But I didn't sit in front of a laptop. I didn't do anything. Instead, I went to breakfast with my wife, went to lunch with my wife, went on the beach, enjoyed my life. You know what I mean? Like really felt recharged after coming back. And previously, I'd have been on the beach listening to half of what she said. I would have been not really present there physically, but not present, which is a big, big game changer for me.
Oh, that's so great to hear. I'm so grateful. That is what drives me. Those are the kinds of things that drive me, to be able to have your life back. Because, when I started in the mortgage business, that's how I was. You do everything you can to be successful, but you're not giving 100%. And I always felt guilty about that. And when I finally figured out how to fix that, it made a big difference in our family life. And so I don't want other people to experience that. I want to avoid it. I want other people to avoid that. It's better to avoid something than it is to try it and then get hooked on it, right? And then learn how to let go. So it's easier if you never hold on to the stuff so tight to begin with.
Absolutely. And the common feeling that people have in our industry is that they need to work harder to make more money. And the reality is working hard is good, but you need to work hard on the right things that bring you money, which is developing the right processes, right?
Yes.
So you don't physically have to work harder by putting in more hours, let's just say. You've got to work harder by building the correct culture, the correct dialogue for your team, having the right team structure, so that you're able to free yourself up and do more of the dollar producing activities and then also find balance while doing all of it, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people have, right? We think we're only successful when we work more hours and we get more deals.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what you're doing to yourself internally is not good.
No, I agree. So I think that's been your biggest takeaway, hasn't it? Besides joining the Freedom Club and then having your team trained, what is your biggest thing that you've gotten from both of those things? Is that it? That the time freedom?
I think it's quality of life. Just some things that happened, since joining the Freedom Club, like, as you know, like just a year and a couple of months later, I proposed to my wife, right?
Yes.
We got married last year. Our relationship improved significantly. Not that it was bad, right? But I was more present, right? I called it quits at certain hours. I spent the weekends with her, right? I was able to shut it off. That quality of life helped me see my family more, right? See my friends more. It's been a game changer in that aspect. all while not sacrificing my income. In fact, growing it, which is the opposite of what you would think.
Mm-hmm. That is so great. I'm so proud of you, Youssef. You've done so amazing. And it's been an honor to be able to watch your progression, to watch. And that's why I wanted so much to have you on this podcast, because you have so much to offer other loan officers that are listening to hear your story and know that it's not a pipe dream to reach your goals. It happens, but it has to happen in steps, right? We have to build, as Carl says, we have to build a bridge and finish the bridge so that we can walk over that bridge before we start another bridge.
Totally.
And that's where I
Absolutely.
think having somebody to hold you accountable makes a difference. And then having somebody to train your team, I think also makes a difference, because then they're on the same page as you. That's what I've noticed is then they are all of a sudden they're understanding from the other point of view, from the loan officer's point of view, the things that they didn't really understand before, but they're not hearing it from the loan officer. They're hearing it from trainers, which makes a difference.
Hearing it from someone else makes a huge difference. And a shameless plug here. Look, I know we all try to worry about money and the cost of things, right? Sending my team members to the training was probably the best investment I've made in a long time.
Thank you.
And honestly, like, you coaching me and guiding me has been a big game changer. So thank you all around. I mean, you're able to coach me, you're able to coach my team members. I mean, it's life changing, and I'll never forget that.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it so much. So what word of wisdom do you have now for loan officers? You know, we're in a different market now. As we're recording this, it's February of 2023. It's a different kind of market that we're in right now. What advice would you give to loan officers right now to keep them on the straight and narrow with doing the right activities?
Take a step back for a moment and look at your business as a whole, right? Look at your business from your ability to build relationships, your lead intake, what happens with that lead, what happens to it when it goes to contract. Like, just look at your business as a whole, right? Look at it as an operating business. Can that business operate without you? Yes or no? If not, which is very common, what are the changes that you have to make so that it can happen? Think about coaching, right? Think about training. These are things that you have to consider. That small investment is going to lead to a lot more dollar producing activities for you, and just an overall better quality of life. So I would say analyze your business, take a really deep look into it, and don't go into it assuming like you're the best, that people can only talk to you, that the show can only run if you're in the pocket, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not the case. You will find the holes. And if you're struggling to do that, then I definitely recommend giving the Freedom Club a call and scheduling a free consultation just to have that conversation with them.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your time today. I know you've just got back from vacation and you've got a lot going on, and it means a lot to me that you were here today. I really appreciate it. And I'm so proud of you. It's been such a wonderful thing to watch what you have accomplished, and it's doable for everybody. It's doable. Thank you, those of you that were listening today. We appreciate you listening. And if you benefited at all from what we talked about today, please share this podcast with other loan officers that you know. And if you got good things out of it, I would appreciate a 5-star review. That would mean so much to us for this podcast. It helps people see it and get benefit from it as well. So the other thing is, if you know anyone that is looking for training or any kind of training at all, we really appreciate you sending them to us, and you can check out details at loanteamtraining.com. So we appreciate you being here, Youssef. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Thanks, Irene. I'll talk to you soon.
All righty.